in with you. We've
Yeah.
been talking this morning about we don't usually talk about Newt Gingrich's columns, but Newt Gingrich's columns over the past 6 years have been mainly blindly pro-Trump and been focused on owning the libs. But I don't know if you saw it or not, but yesterday he said, okay, this guy, he's accomplishing a lot of stuff with a very small majority. He's like Eisenhower. He's like Reagan. He beats his opponents by being underestimated. And we have to change our approach or he's going to keep beating us. It was one of the only clear-eyed views of Joe Biden that I've seen since Biden's walked in the White House I'd say from Democrats or Republicans, because they got it. Newt got it right about Biden. He's been underestimated his entire life by Republicans, by Democrats. You know, listen, our friend David Axelrod just loves trashing Joe Biden, goes out of his way to trash Joe Biden. He does all the time. I like David. He's a friend of mine, but it is nonstop. And he's been trashing Biden. I've heard from Obama people. I've heard from Clinton people. Oh, this guy's not up to being president of the United States. This guy's not up to this. This guy, I swear to God, it's just like Reagan. Everybody said Reagan was stupid his entire life. And it seemed on the left and in the media until he died. And then suddenly Reagan, he was, he always read and he'd write on the plane. But they're making the same mistake with Biden, aren't they?
Well, listen, facts are facts, right? And if you look at the accomplishments of the administration, you look at what happened in the midterm elections. I mean, the midterm elections, to me, are the clearest articulation of the challenge that Republicans face right now. The lack of an agenda, the lack of a real effort to speak about what the alternative is. And it is in opposition to the president. But I don't think that's enough. And I think that's the challenge that they're seeing right now. And I do think it's the case that the president has accomplished a lot, notwithstanding the fact that the critique of him is that, somehow he's a bumbling guy and he doesn't really get much done. And I think that image is probably very different from the reality of what's actually happening under the surface.
And by the way, what you just said is exactly what my mom said about Eisenhower. They always made fun of Eisenhower. Oh, he was a bumbler. He'd just go out and play golf all day. And at the end of the day, he was the extraordinary president. And same thing with Reagan. Constantly, people making fun of how stupid Reagan was. And he outwitted them every time.
I think in Washington, what is underrated is getting stuff. There's a different word you can use. Getting stuff done. Mm-hmm. And at the end of the day, getting stuff done is what should matter to the American people. And it's what does matter to the American people. Right. I think we saw that in the election.
And when I was coming of age, was around the time of Reagan's election in 1980. And you had all of these think tanks popping up. The Heritage Foundation and a lot of others, just ideas. They built a worldview, whether you liked it or not. There was a worldview. There was an approach. They had a theory of the case. And that's what drove the Republican Party from Reagan's victory in 80 to the Republicans taking over in 94. That's just completely gone away with Donald Trump. They didn't even have a platform in 2020. They still haven't come up with an alternative to health care, to Obamacare 12 years later. It is a party void of ideas, which I guess allows a personality cult to fill that void.
No, you're absolutely right. I mean, one of the strange things about the conservative movement, such as it is or was at the moment, is that you can see it trying to catch up to Trump or justify Trump or find some way to explain Trump or create a post hoc ideology for Trump, because otherwise they really can't explain it. I mean, most of what really drives the Conservative Party or the conservative movement right now is what has been called angertainment television.
Yeah.
So it's the idea of getting people angry, making people mad, as you said, getting them to own the libs. But that's not a policy. That's not a strategy. That doesn't tell you how to govern. And so, people don't trust them to govern.
And it hasn't
no wonder.
brought as many people to the polls as they thought it would.
No, it gets some people angry. It gets some people out. It makes some people vote. It's not a useless strategy, but it doesn't seem to be a majority strategy.
Yeah.
But you know what we used to say? What not other conservatives at the table, but what I used to say is, while liberals were out marching in the streets and screaming, we Republicans were going to work. And we weren't paying attention to the noise. We weren't paying attention to we were just working, and that's why we would win, right? Everything has flipped. Yeah. It is now the Republican Party that is trying to undermine institutions. This Trump wing, they constantly attack the U.S. military. Turn on Fox News in primetime. Constantly attacking. Look at senators
FBI.
Constantly attacking the United States military, attacking the FBI, attacking the CIA. We would bitch and whine about the Church Commission for decades. Republicans will eviscerate military heroes that fought and got blown up in Afghanistan and Iraq. And talk about helicopters in Afghanistan that are going to be used against American citizens here. Like, they've lost their freaking minds. Yes. And so now they speak to this dwindling crowd. And what happens? The rest of the voters, people like my parents, when they were alive, I always said, my dad, like, crazy never wins, because my dad only voted Republican, but he did not vote for crazy Republicans. And these are the people who are either staying home, saying the hell with it, or voting for an independent, or even voting for a Democrat. I mean, because these people they're talking to themselves now. And it is now Joe Biden that's figured out how to connect together the independent voters, the swing voters, the people that actually win elections.
Yeah, I think, with Biden, it often strikes me that we overestimate the power of oratory, just how important it is. We in the media think of a Ted Sorensen kind of presidency as being the way, excuse me,
grand, the way noble,
the way, not poetic on the campaign trail, maybe prosaic when they govern. And Biden, is proof that most voters don't really think about oratory and the power of imagery,
so
etc., in the way we do.
And so is Trump.
And so is Trump. In fact, in my own country, John Major, a really underestimated prime minister, not particularly articulate, no passages of oratory. Again and again, we assume that what we value is what voters listen to. And Biden sounds authentic. Fetterman
yes.
came across as authentic. I mean, obviously not soaring oratory, but somebody people could identify with. And I think that causes us routinely to underestimate. As regards to Trump, this is a horrible analogy, but you read about people with porn addiction, and it just gets harder and harder and harder to get the same kick as time goes on. Trump has got to be more and more shocking.
That's so interesting.
He can't replay 2016.
Well, and now you have him kind of doubling down or continuing with the crazy with this Kanye, Nick Fuentes visit, which I think, I don't know. I mean, I think the porn addiction is a great analogy, actually. And some people are going to be like, that's too much.
Yeah.
That's too much.
The Republican Jewish Committee, condemned West, condemned Alex Jones, condemned Nick Fuentes, but still hasn't condemned Trump. And this is what...
Are you serious?
Yeah.
The guy who brought those two to what he calls the Southern White House?
And then they went on Alex Jones, as you know, and they did full-blown Holocaust denial.
Yes.
And they condemned Alex Jones and these two, reprehensible guests, but not Trump. They can't bring themselves to condemn Trump.
And that's why the party keeps losing, Adrienne. They don't have ideas.
No.
They have a personality cult. They will not stand up to a man who lost for them in 2017, 2018, 2019, 2020, and 2022. Well, we're talking about Newt getting it. But how many times do you have to lose? And why do you have to be watching a Giants-Cowboys game to figure out, hey, wait a second, Donald Trump is really bad for the Republican Party?